That's money. Tender, juicy, great flavor, not over smoked. Hey everybody, it's Trevor with Salt City Drum Smokers, and today I have a wonderful prime brisket in front of us. We're going to take you step by step on how to prep this thing, cook it, any tips and tricks on how to cook this thing and have a successful cook on a Salt City Drum Smoker. So this is the night before that I'm going to cook the brisket. I am going to get it all trimmed, seasoned, and ready to go for the pit tomorrow. All right, so let's break right into this thing. So we're starting here with a 14 1/4 pound USDA prime brisket. I really, for the money, prime is just the way to go. Right now, choice briskets are usually only about 50 cents less a pound for a brisket compared to a prime. So you're looking at $3.40, $3.50, or $4 a pound. It just makes sense, in my opinion, to buy the prime. You're getting a lot better cut of meat. You're getting a lot more internal marbling in the flat. Not so concerned about the point. The point usually has plenty of marbling in it, no matter what grade of meat that you go with. But the flat is what I'm concerned about. That internal marbling is really, that's the flavors, the moisture. It's the essence of the brisket. But we also have to break that, we have to break the brisket down too to make it tender for you. So, all right. So I always start with fat cap up when I'm going to cut into this thing. So that way I do not accidentally cut into the flat of this thing and put a big old mark in it or big old slice in it that I don't want. To be honest with you, I probably have a 50-50 chance of having one in it anyways, just from the processor. So take this out, try to keep the juices in there. Put that down. Get rid of that. Take a couple pieces of paper towel here, just kind of pat it down, try to get all the, it's not even blood, I can't remember what the official word is for it, but just get all the juices off from this thing. Okay, so when I'm going to the grocery store, I'm gonna pick out a brisket. What am I looking at? So, I have a whole case of briskets here. So I'm trying to look at this side right here and seeing the marbling in this side to see how much intermuscular fat there is. I'm also looking at the surface of the flat too, and just seeing how much that is. Between the two of them, you can usually pick out a pretty decent brisket. Look at them. So those are really the two things that I'm looking for. I'm looking at the weight, the grade of the meat. I'm gonna flip it up on this side. So you have this knuckle of fat right here. It's going to be on the opposite side of that. Look here, look down in here in this flat, look at the marbling in there, and then look at the surface marbling on it. And then, whatever one's got the most out of all of those and it's kind of in your weight range, that's what I'm going to go for. Okay, so let's dive right into this. I use just Victorinox knives. They're nothing special. I really like, I go through knives so much that when I'm doing this kind of stuff, just the cheap knives are kind of the way to go on it. So we have a straight, flexible, bony knife, and then I have a curved. It's got a little flex in it. And then I also have a big slicing knife, and I'll show you what I'm going to use that for here in just a minute. So I always have two pans here. The pan that my brisket's going to go into once this thing is all said and done. And then I kind of have my scraps pan here for fat and everything like that. So I'm going to get this off and get this out of the way here. See what we're working with. So you hunters, you got your elk, you got your big game that's a little lean and stuff like that. You can save that. use that to mix into your grind to get that fat content up. Or you can use it, I mean, you just can't really use it for sausage, but. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna work this around here just to kind of square it up. So this edge right here normally is a little on the brownish side. You can see here, it's a little on the brown side, and that's just from when they split the carcass and they're doing the pre-wash on it, they're doing the sanitation wash on it and stuff like that. It discolors it, and you don't really want that. So I got most of that out on the first try here. We'll get a little bit more. But this is a good shot right here to show the actual two muscles. So right here we have the flat, and right here coming around this way is the point. Okay, flat, point, or lean, fatty if you're in Texas. Take some of that off right there. So I'm just kind of squaring this up. Making it look nice as far as the shape and stuff like that goes. Yeah, I got rid of a little bit of this right here off in the end. Sometimes they have a big knuckle that's off from me. That's not even part of the brisket. That's another cut of the meat and everything like that. So that's not part of the point. It's not part of the flat. It's just a big chunk of, I don't know where they're, not even where their collarbone. They don't have a collarbone, but would be. Get some more of this out of here. Okay, so this isn't a comp trim. This isn't anything like that. This is just, I'm cooking this for my family on a weekend or for guests, dinner party, something like that on it. So it's pretty basic. We're not going to do a whole lot here. We're not going to separate this or anything like that. You can, if you're going hot and fast, I would recommend cutting this back, taking this down, and separating it a little bit and getting some of this fat out of here, because you don't want to render that when you're cooking hot and fast. You want to just get the meat done. So anything you can do on the front side will help you out. So I'm gonna look at here. Now I want this to be the fat cap on the back side here. This looks pretty good as far as not really need anything trimming. Sometimes you have I don't know, it's like a little flap right here that you have to trim off. All it's gonna do is burn on it and everything like that. But you can see there's quite a bit of fat cap on this side right here. We're really looking for a 1/4 inch. So we're gonna take some of that off. I'm gonna take this little flap off here. It's just gonna burn. It's not really gonna do anything for us here. Oh, look at this. We're pretty close to it right there. So I'm just gonna feel up in here. I can see that it's probably a little thin, so I'm not gonna do a whole lot of trimming back up in here. I will get down here towards the point a little bit. Get that trimmed down to that 1/4 inch range. Okay, as far as that goes, I mean, that looks really good to me on that side. This side's pretty dang close. If your knife skills aren't there, this silver skin and stuff like that, don't mess with it. I mean, you can practice, but to be honest with you, you're more than likely just going to put a bunch of divots in it and stuff like that. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull up moisture, and your seasoning is not going to set on it. It's not going to actually set or anything like that. So one thing I want to do right now, my grain of this brisket is running this way. So some guys will take and cut off a chunk right here and just cut that off so that way that they know to slice this way around. I don't actually take a chunk off, but I do put a nice slice in it just like that. So this is Blue right here. Blue, he's what, 6 months old? Not even 6 months old. Still learning his manners. He's kind of helping out today. So this is what I use this knife for, is to get this off. I want to get my hand underneath it. Get it raised up here. I'm just going to kind of follow this grain. And just slightly. You spill my beer, dog. I don't even care about him licking the cutting board. I'm more worried about my beer. Blue, is this your first brisket? You a little excited about this? So I do have some little gouging in here. We'll kind of go in here and clean this up. Here, shaving that off. Come back up here, we'll get this off. Sometimes there's a deep seam in this, and by the time, if you follow it, you'll just end up being in the point by the time you get it out. And if you got a brisket like that, that means it was a good, happy cow. It's a good brisket. I'm just keeping my hand off from underneath it, keeping it propped up. I'm shaving this off. Blue, get your butt down. Just about there. So we're over here on this side now. Okay, so we got it pretty much shaved off. Not too, I don't see too many high spots here. We're just gonna cut that off. Put that in our scrap bin right there. So I'm gonna roll this edge a little bit here, just kind of trim it down. Nice rounded corners. Got a nice rounded corner there. We'll round this end off. Sharp corners tend to burn, so a nice rounded edge will prevent it from burning. You ain't gotta get all too fancy on there. Okay. So I like that. I like the shape of it. She's nice. Nice cut of meat right there. So what's next? Well, the next thing we're gonna do is get this seasoned up. So I need to get a binder. So let me grab that real quick. You can use mustard, you can use olive oil, you can use peanut oil. You can use really, I mean, whatever you want to use it. I mean, it isn't all that. I personally use a mustard most of the time, but for the sake of this video and everything like that, and I don't want to walk out in the garage and grab the mustard. So I have a special container of mustard that I use just for barbecue. But that's out in the garage refrigerator. So we're just going to use olive oil here. Actually, I'm going to start over here on this side. Ooh. I got that. I don't like that. So we'll cut that off. Sorry. Squirreling on you. Okay. So some people will be like, why are you even messing with this? It's all fat. We're gonna wrap this brisket. So I'm not gonna go super heavy on it, but I am gonna wrap this. And the seasonings are going to mix with the juices and the fats and stuff like that that are gonna come out of the brisket as you're cooking it after it's been wrapped. And it's just gonna add a little bit of flavor to the au jus that you're gonna essentially be creating during that. And I don't know, flavor's flavor. So what we are using today is hay grill hay, beef rub, and then we are going to be also using the Eats Barbecue, the most powerful stuff. I do throw a little bit more restaurant grind, a more coarse grind, black pepper in this, just to give it a little bit more texture on it and a little bit more. I think you take a little bit of Texas into it. A little salt and pepper. So both of these are salt-based rubs. And brisket is really one of the only meats that can really take two salt-based rubs on it. You still can make it too salty, but I don't think we're going to. So we're just gonna put a nice light coat of that hay grill hay beef rub on there. We're gonna follow it up here with Eats Barbecue, the most powerful stuff. So there it is. So they call it rub, but don't rub it into the meat. I'm sure you've heard it. Just kind of pat it down in there. You see that little extra pepper, and it really brings it out. I mean, this is an awesome rub just in and by itself, but this combination you got here it's not a true Texas salt, pepper, maybe a little bit of garlic, but it gives it a nice color, and it's the flavor combo on it is pretty ridiculous. Okay, so that's kind of set in, packed up a little bit. Take it, we're going to flip it over, do the same thing on this side. So a lot of people will take this right here and trim a bunch of this out. You can see it on this shot here. We'll trim some of this out. You can do it. For this particular cook, I'm not going to. Like I said, if I was going to do a hot and fast cook, yeah, I'm going to start separating this thing and I'm going to trim some of that out. I'm not going to be able to render all that. I can tell you that right now. It's not all going to render out, but we should get pretty dang close to it. Massage this thing a little bit here. Get some more Susie's Hay Grill Hay Rub. Just about out of this. We're just gonna have enough here, I think, to get this done. So this side, I am gonna go just a touch heavier on it. Now, with that being said, if you go too heavy on it, you'll never build a bark on it. You'll never get the seasoning to set on it. And then you're just restricting it from actually getting some smoke on it and stuff like that. So there is a fine line between, you know, enough rub and too much rub. Do these ends here. I don't want this thing so covered I can't see any of the intermuscular fat or anything like that. It just, you know, just get it covered. To the end here. This side. Pat it in. Let's sit there. So this thing's gonna go in the refrigerator overnight, and then we're gonna start and light the pit tomorrow morning to cook this thing. And we're gonna cook it probably in that 250 to 275 range. Nothing too hot, nothing crazy or anything. This is going to be a little bit longer cook, but you know, I think it's not going to be that 225 low and slow, what they call it, low and slow. It's a little too low for me. So that's it. That's a prep brisket. That thing's ready to go. We're going to put it in a sheet pan, put it in a refrigerator overnight, and get the grill, the Salt City drum smoker, lit tomorrow and get this thing smoking. Hey everybody, this is day 2 of our brisket cook. Last night we went over how to trim a brisket, how to select a brisket, and how to get that thing seasoned up for your backyard cook here. Now this morning, it is about 7 o'clock in the morning here. We started about 15 minutes or so ago. As you can see, we got a chimney of charcoal going here and getting that ready to go. And then we also have our drum, the fire basket, all ready to go with our Fogo super premium charcoal. And then you see the bottom, that's oil dry. We use oil dry in the bottom of it just to absorb the greases and the fats and stuff like that that are dripping down in there. It makes cleanup a heck of a lot easier when you do need to go clean that thing up. And yeah, so we're just gonna let this chimney go here, and then here in a few minutes, it's going strong. We'll throw it on top of the fire basket inside the drum smoker, and we'll get the brisket on. And you can see this thing's been sitting overnight, and it looks all nice and beautiful and everything like that. So the smoker is ready to go. We threw the chimney charcoal on there, let it sit open for 5-10 minutes or so, and then put the diffuser plate in, and it's time to cook this bad boy. So I know I didn't touch on what kind of wood was in that fire basket. There's pecan and cherry in there. Wood in a smoker is a very personal choice. There is no right or wrong answer on selecting wood to go into the smoker and what you're going to cook with. It is truly a personal preference. So just play around with different combinations and find one that you like. We're gonna take that, throw that right in the center, put the lid on it, and let this thing cook for, oh, we'll probably come back out here and check it in probably about 4 hours or so and go from there. So right now it is about 7:30 that we're putting it on. We started the charcoal chimney about 6:50-ish or so, and the brisket's going on at 7:30. All right, so it's 10:30 in the morning, and we have had this brisket on for 3 hours. Hour and a half into it, we spritzed it down with some spray butter here, and then we rotated it. We're gonna do that again. And this will probably be my last spritzing on it before we wrap. There we go. And that's all there is. We'll check it here in probably about another hour, hour and a half. We'll actually probe it then, see what the internal temperature is on it, see if we're getting kind of close to where the stall is and stuff like that. So stay tuned. We're back here. It's 11:30. We're gonna open this thing up, check to see how it's doing. As you can see, we had to kind of pivot the smoker here. The wind really picked up. It's about 23 miles an hour or so right now. So we went from a pretty calm and day to a pretty blustery day. And really, the wind's coming straight out of the west, so it's coming out of here and wrapping around. So when that happens, I want the back of the drum to be in the headwind of it, and your intake to be on the opposite side. And that's really going to help you out as far as controlling your temperatures and stuff like that, and controlling temperature spikes on this thing. You know, and if it's still extremely windy, you're pumping more air in than what you need. Sometimes you do have to close the exhaust down just a tad bit, but as if you were running kind of like a barbecue guru or something like that on there. But today it seems to be holding pretty steady at that 275, and we just have the back of the drum straight into the wind. So let's open this thing up and see how it's doing. So right now I'm looking at this point, there's still a lot of liquid coming out of this. I am going to stop. It's starting to tack up. The seasoning is starting to tack up in some spots, but there's also a lot of moisture still coming out of this brisket in other spots. So if I continue to spritz this and stuff like that, the bark isn't going to set. The seasoning is not going to set. You can see up here, it's set. Down here, I wipe, and it's not set. And there's just still a lot of moisture coming out of that, so I don't really necessarily need to add any more to it. So we're what, 4 hours into this. I know I'm not ready yet, but I'm gonna check this thing anyways, just see where we're at. So we're about right here, kind of more in the thicker part of this flat right here in the center. You know, we're about 160 degrees on this thing. So that tells me we're getting probably pretty close to hitting the stall. I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer here, just because it hasn't set up. The seasoning hasn't set up on this thing yet and everything. And it's not burnt or anything like that, so it's not burning, so I'm not too concerned about that either. So we're gonna let it go a little bit, and then we'll wrap it here probably, I would say, another 30 minutes or so. We'll check this thing, see where it's at, see how the seasoning's doing, see if it's drying out. But once again, I just did a 90-degree spin on it, and we'll close this thing back up. Okay, it is 12:40, 12:43 to be exact, right around there. So we went about another hour and 10 minutes or so with it. It's starting to set up a little bit better. There's still some spots in here that's really pushing moisture out still pretty heavily, and it's not quite all the way as set as I would like it, but I know I'm in the stall. I checked the temperature on this thing again, and it was still at 161 degrees. You get up towards here, towards the point where it's a little bit thinner, and the flat is, 174, 176. But I'm looking right here. I checked it right about the same exact spot with the temperature probe this time around, and it was still 161, 163 in there. So we're definitely in the stall right now. So let's get it through the stall. So we're gonna wrap this thing now. Take this, pull that out, set her on 2 sheets of foil here. You're more than welcome to use butcher paper. If you're gonna use butcher paper, you're not gonna put the liquid in that we're gonna put in there. It's just gonna run out. The butcher paper would help with this bark, letting it set up a little bit more because it is gonna breathe. The trade-off with foil butcher paper is the foil is not gonna let the brisket breathe. So it's not going to create quite as rich and quite as good a bark as what the foil will allow you, but I'm going to retain a little bit more moisture. So there's a trade-off. There's a little bit of a trade-off on that too. So, and the other thing is cooking it in foil. Cooking it in foil is going to speed it up a little bit over the paper. You can add probably close to an hour if you're going to cook in paper to your overall cook time instead of foil. So let's do this. So now I got it kind of to this point here. Now you want it nice and tight. You don't want it to steam. You don't want to do anything with that. But you also, you don't want to puncture a hole in it. So you got to really watch it on Boston butts with the bone in them when you're using foil, not to puncture it. So we just have some Swanson's beef broth. You can use beef stock. You can use beef broth. You can use beef consomme. Whatever you really want to use. And if you don't even want to use any at all, you don't really have to. So for that brisket, I just literally put about half of that. So about 16 ounces in there. Okay. I'm going to take this thing. I am going to flip it. And we got Camden in here giving us a tutorial on roll blocks, I guess, while we're filming this brisket here. So there we go. I think it's all nice and wrapped up and everything like that. So once again, we just we wrapped it. It was about, it's about 12:45, 12:50 right now, but we pulled it off at about 12:40. Got a wrap, put some beef broth in there, and we're gonna stick back on the pit. Now I'm not gonna put a probe in it yet. We will put a probe. You're probably all wondering, well, why haven't we done anything? You're not even paying attention to me, and I am paying attention to the meat, but I'm looking at the surface of the meat. I don't really, at this point in time, I'm not too concerned about internal temperatures. I'm really looking at how is the bark developing? What does the brisket look like? Is it burning? Is it look dry? Is it overly moist? I'm looking at those type of things at this point in time, not necessarily internal temperature. People get wrapped up with internal temperatures, and internal temperatures are just a guideline of where you're at. They don't mean that thing is even close to being finished, or it could be over finished. So let's get it back in the smoker. We're back out here on our brisket cook, and let's open this thing up. Let's take some temperatures, see where we're at on this thing. 193 degrees, and you can see it's still tight there, and it's really tight there. 195 degrees. So we got a little ways to go on this thing yet. I do believe it should just slide in like butter. It shouldn't be a whole lot of resistance. I did check it probably about 15 minutes earlier than when we shot this video. It has come up quite a bit. It was about 187 degrees. And where were we at? We were at 194-ish in that spot. So that's 7 degrees in roughly 20 minutes. So at this point in time, once you get through the stall, it will start to rise pretty significantly. So we are going to be pretty diligent on watching this thing. I'm still hesitant to put a probe in it. I don't know, and put a, you know, either a ThermWorks smoke or dot or something in it. I just don't like the cords and everything coming out of it and everything. So we'll watch it in 20 minutes. I'll check it again and see what it's doing, and see how it feels. Hey, we're once again back at the Salt City Drum Smoker here, cooking that brisket. You're gonna see a lot of little puncture holes in it. We've been checking to see if this thing is ready to go, and it feels nice and buttery in there. Just a touch tight right there, but you know, 90% of this brisket is done. You're not gonna get it, you know, probe tender all the way through and every single spot. You do that, you do risk, you know, you risk drying it out or overcooking it in another spot. So there's a very fine line between being underdone and being overdone on a brisket. And I think with a rest, we wrap this, put this in a cooler, let it rest. I think that little tough spot that's in it, and it's just very minor on the resistance, will be fine with a good 2-hour rest. So right now it's 3:20 in the afternoon. So we've been checking this thing every 20 minutes and everything like that, and checking in with it and seeing how it's been doing, and it's ready to go. So this one, for you people that want to know kind of where this thing finished at, is we're right around the 204 range there. 204 there. 204 up there. 204 there. So right in the 204 range is where where I'm comfortable probing this or pulling this thing. So let's get it off the smoker. Let's get it vented and let it rest for a couple hours. Welcome back. The brisket, we just took it out of the cooler, unwrapped it. It is sitting on the cutting board now. So let's slice into this thing and see how we did. So remember, we got a little flap here that we cut that off. It's a nice little taster.
Yep.
So you can see this, starting to get a little bit of that point meat in there. It's nice and juicy still. Got some nice pull on it. Fabulous smoke ring. The bark, it's got some nice bark on it. Oh man, that's good. It was a real good brisket right there. So I'm gonna finish slicing this thing up. I'm gonna go across here. I'm gonna get maybe a couple more slices out of here, and then I am going to flip this thing and start cutting it the opposite way here. But you can still, I mean, this thing, there's moisture all in this thing. And by the way, 4:55 right now. Started this thing at 7:30. I actually started to smoke her about 650. So you don't got to cook this thing for 20 hours. So I'm going to split this thing down the middle here. And look at that. You know, this right here, that's the point. That's fatty. This is still part of the flat right here. You can see that point, a little overdone. Fat's rendered out of it. Real nice. It's going to be good brisket. Oh yeah. Try a little bit of this. That's money. Tender, juicy, great flavor, not over smoked. Hey, if you like this video, subscribe, share it, tell your friends about it, watch it over and over again, and have a great night.